Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you these autonomous sit and stand legs that I bought to transform my desk setup, especially while most people are working from home. So let's check out what we've got here. If you're new to the channel, I like to do some sort of tech reviews as well as talk about overlanding and just maybe some parts of advice I've learned through my engineering career thus far. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and like the video if you continue to watch and enjoy it. I found that not everyone makes it all the way through my videos, so this is just a friendly reminder that if you like my content, please consider subscribing. So enjoy the video. So this is the backbone of the sit-stand legs. You have to remove these 8 screws so that you can adjust it to the length of your desk. Since my countertop from IKEA is a 74-inch length and I wanted the legs to be at the end of the countertop, I extended this out quite far. Each motor connects to this, I guess, rectangular backbone, I'm calling it, at the ends, and so each leg also has a built-in motor. There isn't some sort of external motor that you need to connect to these. So now I had to put 4 screws in each leg, and that's what's shown here. Once I had those legs connected, then the extending parts to each leg that stabilize those a little bit better were needed to be attached. The one in the back that you can't see, I attached and it just isn't caught in the frame, so I apologize. But I will shortly here show the front one where I attach it, and it takes 4 screws to attach to that leg, foot, I guess you could say. So here I'm estimating about how much of those support bars in the middle need to be exposed so that my distance is correct for the legs under the countertop. And so basically what I would recommend is you measure each smaller segment on the left and right where the legs are attached, and then subtract that distance from how far you want your legs to be spread out under your desktop. So what I determined was I needed about 31 inches exposed, and so I think the bars in total are around 34 inches, because this is rated for like desks that are as long as 76 or 78 inches. So I was cutting it fairly close. So what I did was I put in those 2 bars, and then I tightened a screw on either side so that I could check my dimensions before putting in the other 4 screws, because I just wanted to make sure everything was square and that I wouldn't have to take out a bunch of screws after putting everything in and measuring it and it being incorrect. So that's my pro tip. After I finished assembling the sit stand legs, I needed to anchor them to the countertop. So what I did is I flipped my countertop over onto some towels just to try and not scratch the top too badly. And then I centered the legs under the counter. And so I found it was about 1 inch to 1.25 inches on all sides, using those brackets to kind of center it. That's what I had found with the dimensions I had. You'll probably have to do a little bit of calculation to figure out what will be best for your setup. Once I had finished where I wanted to attach them, I put the screws through the holes, and I pre-drilled some holes because I wanted to make sure that the desk legs wouldn't slide around ever so slightly when I was putting in those screws. So rather than using a drill bit like someone else might use, I just used the screws. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a structural issue for me. So that's what I'm doing here. Once I had pre-drilled enough holes to where I felt confident that I could put the legs back in the original position I had marked, I had to tilt those legs up in the air so that I could put in a bunch of these rubber washers that fit into the holes where the screws thread through. So this is what I'm doing here that you cannot quite see on cameras. There's just a bunch of rubber washers that pop through those holes and then hold in place so that you have this, I guess, just a rubberized seal between where the metal and the wood are going to match up. Now that I'm lined up, I began to put in all of the screws through the designated holes with the rubber washers already in place. So I had to just go around and put in all those screws. Once I had completely anchored the legs to the countertop, I decided the next good step would be to attach the remote module for the sit stand leg motors. So that's what you can see me doing here, is I'm putting in 2 small screws to hold that module to the underside of the table in the front so that I can control the sit and stand features for the desk. Next, I anchored down the power source for all the electronics, so I picked a spot relatively centered just for weight reasons, but I don't think it really matters where you put this under the underside of your desk if you have some sort of selection parameters for your specific setup. But I just put it in the center, and there's 2 large screws required to anchor this to the desk, and it's fairly straightforward. So once I had anchored this, then I started plugging the cables and routing them through this channel on the back of my desk. Cable management is always not the funnest task, but I decided to try and do a little bit of this cable management while everything was just right in front of me, rather than having to look at it by laying on my back under the desk. So here I just decided to run a couple of these cables around so that I could save myself a little bit of extra work. Another thing I thought of that maybe other people don't necessarily like to do because it still leaves extra cables hanging behind the desk, but I figured that I could save myself quite a few cables dangling behind the desk as it rose from sitting to the standing position, was using a power strip that had a really long power cable. So that could be the main cable being pulled up and down as the desk moved. And most power strips have some sort of way to mount them, so I just used a couple of screws I had laying around my place to put in to the underside of the desk, and then my power strip just hooked right into place. Since the desk gets quite heavy once you have these legs attached to it, and also my countertop in particular is quite heavy, I would recommend attaching some of your more heavier items to the desk before you place it into its permanent spot. This I just found to be kind of a nice way to have good accessibility around the desk. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you watching the video and checking out my setup and how I've been able to change some of the aspects of it by adding the sit stand features, as well as just cleaning up my desk a little more with all this cable management. If you would like to see some of my other changes that I'm doing to my office, I will be releasing more parts to this series in the future. If you like this video and you want to follow along with more videos on my channel, then consider subscribing. And if this video brought any value to your life or inspiration, or you just enjoyed the content, please give it a like, because that really helps my channel grow and create more content like this for you all. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.